I'm Brooke Hershenhorn, and this is Going Concern Opinions May Be Poised for a Comeback.
And I'm Natalie Shapiro.
So what does an audit opinion mean? Opinions vary depending on available information, financial viability, and any errors discovered during the auditing process. It places pressure on a company to ensure that financial reporting processes are clear and accurate, and the opinion given affects the company itself as well as investors, the public, and the government. It alerts the public to the transparency, reliability, and accountability of companies. So an unqualified opinion is the most desirable option. The auditor is satisfied with the company's financial reporting, and the company is in good compliance with governance principles and any applicable laws. For a qualified opinion, the auditor is not confident. There's uncertainty regarding the going concern assumption, or a financial statement was not presented with GAAP.
A whole financial statement or just a component of it?
It could be any component.
Okay.
And any uncertainties are disclosed in the footnotes, and an auditor explains why an unqualified opinion was not given.
Okay.
For a disclaimer of opinion, the auditor does not provide an opinion. The auditor felt that they could not express a definite opinion, and this kind of creates an adverse image of a company. The company either limited the ability to conduct a thorough audit, or questions were not answered with satisfactory explanations. And the last option is an adverse opinion. So the company was not in accordance with GAAP, and the auditor is not satisfied with the financial statements, or there's a high level of material misstatements or irregularities. This creates a situation where investors and the government mistrust the financial statements, and it's a big red flag because it could indicate a potential for fraud. So what is a going concern opinion? The going concern assumption assumes that a company or business will continue to operate in the foreseeable future, and financial statements are prepared on a going concern basis. So
can you maybe give me an example of what that means?
Like with the idea in mind that a company will keep operating.
How would that affect inventories if you were a going concern or a non-going concern?
If you were a non-going concern, you probably wouldn't be buying as much inventory because you don't expect to keep operating.
Okay.
You might get rid of assets, settle leases.
Okay. So now let's think about this for a second. If you had inventory and you're a going concern, the value would be there. But if you're not a going concern, would you assume the inventory is not worth what it is on the books?
Yeah, I think you could assume that.
So it's things like that. Okay, keep going.
So when an auditor issues a going concern opinion, they have substantial doubt that the company will continue operations in the following year, and this is usually in a qualified opinion. And going back to the last slide, any uncertainty that the auditor has is explained in the footnotes. So how does an auditor decide to issue this opinion? First, it's important to remember that the auditor is not responsible for predicting future conditions or events. So they just think of these two questions I have on the slides here themselves and answer them to the best of their ability, but they can't predict things like coronavirus or anything like that when they're making these opinions. So the first question they ask is, did the results of the procedures performed in auditing indicate that there could be a doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern? So is there any doubt that the company won't continue operations? They might need to obtain additional information, and if they decide that the company is a going concern, there should be evidence to back that.
So they got to go with that additional step to say, management, what are you doing to make sure you can survive?
Yeah, so next they'll ask management any plans they have. So that might be disposing assets, borrowing money or restructuring debt, reducing or delaying any expenditures. And then the auditor has to assess the likelihood that the management can actually implement that plan.
So let's take J.C. Penney. Have you both shopped at J.C. Penney's?
Yes.
Yeah, at some
Oh,
point. Probably.
okay, at some point. Now they declared bankruptcy, and they have a plan to come out of it by closing 250 stores. Based on what you know about retail, do you think that'll fix the situation for her?
I don't think so, no, because then they're going to have less customers coming into stores because there's just less stores.
Okay.
They also have the same amount of inventory like sitting in those stores too.
Hmm.
Like that inventory is not going anywhere even when you close the store.
Okay.
And
But
then
if they can't make money with, say, 700 stores, why do they think they can make money with 500 stores?
Exactly, yeah. I just, I don't think that it would be in their best interest to shut down more stores because of that reason. I think if you have 700 stores and nobody's going to those, why would they go to the other ones?
Do you think COVID-19 has changed how people buy stuff that Penny sells and you won't go back to it? We'll just
yeah,
continue ordering online?
I definitely think a lot of people have gotten used to ordering things online. And even I know like with my family, we don't really like want to go back to a big department store like that if we don't have to for some time.
Okay.
So then after the auditor evaluates management's plans and sees if they think it's likely that the plans can be implemented, they see if there's still substantial doubt. And if there is, they include an explanatory paragraph after an opinion paragraph to reflect the conclusion. And even if substantial doubt does not exist, they might still want to disclose the information that there was doubt at some point. So a disclosure just considers what information should be included. So maybe the conditions or events that gave rise to this doubt. So for JCPenney, that would be COVID-19 probably. And then management's evaluation and management's plans for moving forward. And the auditor might also mention something about a possible discontinuance of operations. Warning signs. When should a company expect a going concern opinion? There are 4 big factors: negative trends, indications of financial difficulties, internal matters, and external matters. You can see I have all of these listed, but we're seeing a lot of this with COVID-19 right now in a lot of different forms since companies.
Oh, yeah, COVID-19 could impact all 4 of those things, couldn't they?
Yeah. Negative trends, I mean, a lot of companies have had to close doors completely if they weren't considered essential, and even essential businesses too. Capacity is a lot less, so we're seeing a lot of this right now. And then to get into the article, going concern opinions are making a comeback. Since 2017, all companies have been required to evaluate going concern assumptions. And right now, the number of going concern filings is at a 10-year low. But it's believed that a lot of the financial assessment that occurred in 2020 happened before all of the negative effects of COVID-19. And those effects won't be clear until 2021.
So the accounting firms won't have to say something until they actually issue an opinion on the year-end results. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
So many companies are not likely to survive this, but quarterly reports can foreshadow going concern opinions, which companies were still doing okay and which were starting to go under.
But there wouldn't be an audit opinion on
No.
the interims. Okay.
So companies must now provide more detailed financial information. This is in the liquidity and capital resources section of the quarterly report and in the footnotes. And that goes back to what I was saying with foreshadowing future events.
Foreshadowing, we'll have to use that word.
And then this is just a graph that shows the 10-year decline of audit opinions that are going concerns.
That's a lot. Why do you think they went down so much?
Honestly, I thought it was interesting that they went down too, just so consistently every year. I guess 2008 is when there was a recession, so maybe just since then companies have been doing better.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, and then our article discussed the problems that Dave & Buster's was having due to
Have either of you been to Dave & Buster's?
Yes.
Oh, you have? Okay. So you can relate to this personally?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in March, the company closed all 137 of its locations because of COVID. In April, the entity was given a going concern notice and warned Dave & Buster's that it wouldn't survive in the next year. The notice was filed because that they were having liquidity issues and low revenue due to closing all of their stores. Dave & Buster's had to come up with a plan to salvage their company, and they decided that they were going to reopen all of their stores, welcome back 14,000 employees, cut back planned capital spending by 70%, reduce compensation of executives and the board, and negotiate with their landlords and vendors to lower expenses.
Okay, so let's go back for a second. Okay, so now when they open, everything they do is inside, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they might have some outside activities like mini golf in some ones, but I'm not really sure.
So their biggest risk with this is, will customers come back?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, even after like stores start to open and everything, I think a lot of people are still scared and won't want to go out and just, unless it's essential, like for the grocery stores or work. Like I don't think people are going to really go back to like movie theaters or something.
Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
At least not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Would you go back?
Personally, no. I only went because I had the girls that I babysat liked to go.
Okay. Brooke, would you go?
I just don't think it's like a place that's super easy to clean either. Like movie theaters, I think it's relatively easy to just clean the seats, but games have a lot of different parts to them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't really, I think it's going to take a lot of effort on their end to make sure everything's sanitized. Okay.
So they can do these things, which sound good, but the real test will be, do the customers come back?
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Okay. And the effects of going concern opinions, because of the current pandemic, the amount of going concern opinions have increased. As a result of this, companies are required to create financial statements with more details because the auditors want to be like super certain about the financial stability of the company. If a company receives a going concern opinion, they may have stricter credit terms, lowered credit ratings, and have to dispose of some of their assets. Auditors are also going to be more skeptical of companies' modeling of future cash flows. The effects of COVID-19 on businesses. Coronavirus has had a major effect on the global economy, and it disrupted global supply chains and also left millions of Americans filing for unemployment benefits. 99% of all businesses are small businesses that employ about half the U.S. workforce, and they lack the cash reserves for an interruption of this degree.
It doesn't seem like the big companies, I mean, the airlines ran out of money really fast.
Yeah. I think everyone is kind of suffering from the effects of COVID, but I think that smaller businesses struggle a little more because they obviously don't have as much revenue as larger companies. Also, another effect of COVID is startup depression. Startup depression is when new companies don't enter the job market because of the pandemic and its economic conditions. And the two industries that have been impacted the most by COVID are hospitality and travel, because of travel cancellations, restaurant and bar closures, and low consumer confidence.
Okay.
And the effects of COVID-19 on financial statements. COVID has also had an effect on companies' financial statements because companies are now required to create higher quality financial statements because investors and stakeholders need more detail on a company's financial situation before they make decisions with that entity. And COVID has also increased the number of going concern reports as more companies struggle to stay afloat. And then we have our sources.
Okay. Each question for each one of you. What did you learn by doing this? Learn about yourself, learn about what's going on in the world. How does it impact financial statement analysis?
I realized that even like you said, like larger companies are still failing, but I didn't really think about the fact that smaller businesses don't have like a backup plan for or just extra cash lying around for anything
Very true.
of this to happen.
That's very true.
Yeah, I didn't really know, honestly, too much about the auditing process before this, so I thought that was just interesting to learn about and then relate it to what's happening right now. Especially this slide that I had with when should a company expect a going concern opinion. I think a lot of companies didn't expect this at all, and like Natalie said, don't have a lot of extra cash lying around. So a lot of it is so external that the company couldn't have predicted this happening, especially airlines that are going under so much right now. I just liked relating it to what's going on in the news today.
Sure. Do you think this situation could lead to more fraud because people try to hide what's going on?
Yes, I think so. I think that's also why they are the auditors are requiring them to provide more detail on their financial statements as well.
Okay, that's good. I think I'm going to put in in project 2, I was already working on it, or project 3, is we should do a stress test on the companies you're working on. Which one are you working on, Natalie?
Home Depot.
Brooke?
Spirit Airlines.
Spirit Air, okay. Maybe we should do some stress tests on both of them. They're 2 different companies with 2 different business models. But you've got to stress test the airlines. How long will they be able to survive without flying? Can they fly at 30% load factor, 50, 80, or are they dead? Now, Home Depot seems to benefit from all this.
Yeah.
Right now.
I know I read that a lot of companies, like when they're closed, they're going to do like renovations for their like stores and stuff. So I know Home Depot has connections with a lot of like construction companies, and
okay.
So they'll like benefit from people doing that in the quarantine time.
But they could be faced with, if, you know, we hear V-shaped, W-shaped, a faster recovery, but if this is you know, right now people went out and did the projects because they're home. But if we continue to be in a recession, is that a risk for Home Depot that maybe some of these projects, if the economy slows, people won't be hiring contractors?
Yeah, I think that there's that possibility, but there's also always people like building houses, fixing things.
Okay.
So I think they should be okay.
Okay. So